Before meeting of the East Long Meadow Planning Board to order. Those in attendance are
Joe Fonseca.
Cassandra Chiaraswolo.
Russell Denver,
Robert Terrell.
and we're joined by Rob Washila, the planning director.
Yep.
Okay, first thing I need to ask if there's anyone in the audience who might be recording this meeting or on Zoom. If so, please state your name and the method you are recording the meeting. I'll ask one more time. If there's anyone in the audience or by Zoom who's recording the meeting, please state your name and the method you're recording the meeting. Hearing none. The approval of the October 15th, 2024 open session minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mr. Clerk, first order of business.
Case SP 2024-10, request for an amendment to special permit SP 2002-17 and subsequent amendment SP 2007-10 at 64 North Street, formerly 6th Street. Assessors parcel ID 1A-22-60, business zoning district to allow for outdoor dining at Villa Napolitana, applicant online Bonavita, 666 North Main Street, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028.
Mr. Bonavito or his representative here, please come forward, state your name. And just for everybody in the audience and or on Zoom, please have a seat.
Thank you.
So this planning board asks lots of questions of petitioners and others who come before this board. And the primary reason we do that is because there are people on TV who have not seen all the materials that have been submitted in front of us. So sometimes it irritates the petitioners, but that's life and that's the world we live in. So, all right, who wants to start?
Hi, my name's Carl Bonavita.
Sign in, please.
Sure. Good night. My name's Carmelo Bonavita. Resident of East Long Meadow, 452 Parker Street. Been a resident of East Long Meadow for 30 years. We opened Villa Napolitano 27 years ago. We've been in business for 27 years, fought through COVID, everything. We think we established a good business, family restaurant that people come into, open 7 days a week. We're very encapsulated with the space. Space would work for our business a little. Or if we had an outdoor patio like everybody else does, COVID showed that we can serve outside and run a good establishment.
Do you want to present the plans?
Philip Burdick, architect, landscape architect. I'm with Springfield, Massachusetts. I'm going to be presenting on behalf of the 664 Main Street, which is the Villa Napolitana. This is the plan which you've seen already, and I'm going to turn it to the camera as well.
If you can angle it in just a way so maybe TV can see some of it. Rob, can you see?
Yeah, it's fine. I already have a.
Yeah, okay, great.
The outdoor dining area you're familiar with because it was approved temporary side of the building. Same area is proposed as before. No other site changes are proposed. The idea is that during nice weather, they'd be able to use the space for outdoor dining. They also, when the restaurant itself has a very small vestibule, so there may be times when patrons arrive waiting for a table that they might be able to wait outside, wait at a table outside when the weather is good. Temporary permits and same usage, outdoor dining.
But you're going to do improvements to the outdoor space.
There's a screen side, so they screen out parking inside. There's install a deck as well. There was a deck there previously. They're going to make a deck improvements.
And the enclosure is going to be noise proof, taller, smaller.
It's going to be a little bit taller. It's going to be, it's completely, before it was post fence, now it's all got this sort of screen. Highly noise proof, like noise suppression. So they also want, not to have the noise coming in as well.
Okay.
If there are questions, we'd be happy to answer.
So I do need to, can we do a motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So questions, I'll start. Parking. So you're not close to even meeting the ratios. It appears you're 15 spots off for that location.
The parking, my understanding of the parking was that it's one spot for every 3 patrons. They have 30 parking spaces designated for restaurants or space for the convenience store. So I believe that it does meet the
Also
requirement.
contract across the street with the AFL-CIO for their parking also.
Right. Parking has not, in the 25 years I've been, they haven't received any complaints about the park.
I don't want to talk about last 15 years. I want to make sure that you comply with the zoning ordinance. Like, how are you going to comply with the zoning ordinance?
What's an existing site? So, it's the parking that was there previously, like it's been there for 25 years, so it's an existing condition, which we're not seeking.
Okay.
You are altering by adding additional space. I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm trying to comply.
My answer,
So hold on one second, if I can. So you're adding an additional 24 seats, call it.
The restaurant operates on the basis of reservations, so when people show up for a reservation, they say, would you like to dine? Sometimes they have patrons who request that they be able to dine outside when the weather permits. So they're not looking to add additional seating, they're give people the option of dining either indoors or outdoors, so. Like, if they don't have walk-ins, it's not like a Chili's or another one of these.
I know that. I've been to the restaurant often. But you're not addressing the question. Where are you going to meet the ratio?
For you're saying that you want additional parking.
I'm saying the zoning ordinance wants. Different than what I want. It's what the zoning ordinance wants. So how are you going to get there? So you said something about a contract.
we have an agreement with the AFL-CIO, which has multiple parking spaces, maybe 50 parking spaces directly across the street from us. We also have valet parking too on the weekends. So they do park the cars for them. So shouldn't be any issues. You pull up, you get your car parked and they park it in across the street. You come out, you get your keys, they go back, they get their car and they bring it back. So there's not a traffic jam at all that we see. And the neighbors on the street have never complained about cars being there also because we don't allow that. It's more of a family oriented. We close very early, 10, 11 o'clock. We stop serving meals. So usually by 12 o'clock, the place is closed. It's not a bar, it's not a hangout. So it's more family orientated.
So do you have that agreement in writing? And is that
You
something,
could get that in writing.
that's something you could,
Because we've just communicated verbally. We've used it over 10 years with them. Because the restaurant's been successful for a while. So they allowed us to use it. They just said, park, no problem. But I imagine if we asked, they would give it to us.
so we're going to need that.
Okay.
We're going to need something that is going to indicate that the parking, and I'm not saying this is the final approval, but something, go ahead.
I was gonna just clarify one thing. So, the site is shared between 3 different businesses. You have those 2 retail places and then you have the restaurant. So because you have all 3 of those businesses on the same site, that's what affects the numbers for the parking ratio. Because of that, retail needs about 6 parking spaces for every 1,000 square feet of retail space. There's 1,800 square feet of space total between those 2 businesses roughly. That's about 11 parking spaces. That's why the number of parking spaces required for all 3 businesses on site. You have metrics for the restaurant and the retail combined. That's about 49 spaces needed for the whole site. So, Mr. Chair, the board could use in its discretion, if you feel that there's other parking that could be made available for the business, it could be satisfied with a written agreement if you feel that is acceptable.
Okay. So we need that in writing.
Mhm.
Something signed by the president of the union or the property owner.
I would have to go to Providence for the president of the union.
No, you can
Local.
call him and he can
Okay.
send you something in writing.
Okay.
Yeah. So we want something in writing that indicates that you have unlimited usage during your hours of operation. And then I would like something in writing that talks about your valet service, which I didn't know you had, and I think it's wonderful. Thank you. I don't know. I'm the only one asking questions, but I think you see where we're going. We don't want Wood Avenue overloaded
I understand.
with additional parking,
Yes.
I think is what it is.
I don't think it's been there. We've been there
No.
25 years now.
No.
We're not expanding. I don't think there's been complaints. I don't think the police department's had a complaint about
Nope.
us.
Nope.
And we've been a good tenant. very difficult to be in the restaurant business for as many years as Villa Napolitano.
Just trying to cross every T and dot every I.
Sandwiches.
So,
It's a sensitive area. We've had
Yeah.
parking stuff happen in that with other
Yeah.
businesses right now. So I agree. I think
Is there a traffic study for the city? Has a traffic study there or any sort that you guys have, the town has it? So we can see something if there's any complaints with the city with traffic going by or parking.
if there were,
Is that a study?
if the police had gotten complaints, they would have sent us.
Is the town done a study on the traffic?
Not any recent, not any recent ones. No.
There hasn't been complaints.
But just to,
Generated situation where there are complaints.
exactly.
Right.
And just to let you know, so the last two restaurants that came before us, we approved outdoor dining. But the major focus on both of them, which was East Village Tavern and I already forgot the name of the Mexican restaurant,
Yeah.
not far from you.
Yeah. Excellent restaurant.
Yeah, we spent a considerable amount of time on additional parking requirements because it added additional seating
Yeah.
to the restaurant.
That's it.
And we're trying to treat every business exactly the same wherever we can. So, yeah. So I've been hogging the conversation.
My concern was the parking spaces is, I'm consistent. I'm concerned with parking and, I don't live too far from there. Guys do a phenomenal job. There aren't any problems. But we're gonna make sure that there aren't any, we don't cause any problems by allowing this. That's all. We're not playing hardball here. We're just, as Russ said, we're just trying to be consistent. Because this board is always focusing on parking spaces and compliance.
Yeah, we actually put the fella who opened is it Pizza Hut or
Little Caesar.
Little Caesars?
Yeah.
We'll see.
You do, in the Pride
On the
Plaza.
Pride Plaza.
We put him through the ringer.
Yeah.
So,
Poor guy.
yeah, he came back 4 different times. So,
He was smiling at the end though.
and he made changes. Yeah.
Yeah, he made,
The plaza owner made
I'm
them.
pretty sure that we have all your documentation come up shortly.
yeah.
more clarity around the park would be nice. How many spots do you think are actually over across the street?
I have no,
I don't think
I
it's
mean, I would say at least 30.
Okay.
Like it's just visual I see, but I know their land goes way in the back and if they use it for parking or whatever they use it for.
Okay.
Yeah, so-
We're actually using
We
it
could
at
submit
night.
a plan with the documentation letter. too.
That would be good.
Yeah.
So that we can see the
At
numbers
least 11 more spots. That's all you need.
Right. Yeah, that's where I was going.
and
Five spots.
indication that you have access to it during your hours of operation.
Mr. Chick, I had a few more things.
Absolutely.
Some comments from some of our departments. I'll just bring them up really quick. But the one thing is, so our assistant superintendent DPW made some comments in terms of the parking spaces on Wood Ave. So these comments include installing a stop line bar, repainting some of the parking stalls, installing proper bollards. So this plan I'll give to you tonight, so you have it. It has this markup and comments on it. It's also on the OpenGov portal too, as a PDF document. So if you went online, you can download it, or you can just email me tomorrow and I can send you a copy of it. And those changes will be incorporated into the conditions of this permit if it was approved. So you would have to make those changes accordingly and do those suggestions. Those are from the regulations of DPW, which governs all parking lot design and maintenance, et cetera.
Yeah, so we want to comply with.
Yeah.
Requirements of DPW and public safety reasons. The owner feels the same way.
So if you think you can get all of that, our next meeting is December 3rd
Yep.
in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
We can just continue the hearing until December 3rd.
Yep.
Um,
Mr. Chair, I actually have 2 more comments, if that's okay. I don't want to, so make sure these are all read out. The other thing is in regards to a comment from the building department. So because you're adding those outdoor dining seats, you are technically increasing the occupancy load per building code. And because of that, you will need to get a certificate of occupancy for the property after the special permit is granted to. Yes, exactly. Also, I've been told that, did you ever file a building permit for the deck itself or no?
We filed one for the original COVID deck, so.
Okay, you want to make sure.
That's that with them, we have an application.
Exactly. You might want to talk with them and make sure that that's squared away, just to make sure everything's permitted correctly, for many reasons. And also in terms of the bathrooms, you're supposed to have, I believe, 3, it's like 1 bathroom per 50 people or something like that. I think the metric is because the occupancy is now 118. I think that affects the number of bathrooms you have to have inside, which means, sink, toilet, et cetera. there like a designated male, female bathroom inside, or is it just,
4 bathrooms inside.
so they're all like unisex, like anybody can use them? Okay.
One's handicapped. right?
One's at, no, I think they're all, 2 are handicapped,
Correct.
Yeah, and the other 3 are like,
grandfathered in,
okay.
been there forever, but.
They don't all have to be handicapped, you just have to buy them.
So I would say, talk to the building department as well about that. Make sure that, that complies. So there's no issues moving forward.
Condition of the CO would be that.
Exactly.
we're in Compliance with the code.
I don't anticipate that being any major changes to your plans. But
Yes, I don't.
I still want to make that clear to you guys beforehand, just so you know. And then the last, yeah, no problem. And then the last thing is very quick. The water and sewer administrator recommended having the water shut-off valve box located before any permanent structure is put in place. And he says the reason for this is because it should be brought up to grade so it's accessible for emergencies. If it's not located in that area, don't worry about it. So if I were you, I would also reach out to the water and sewer administrator after this meeting and discuss that with him. And again, I can follow up with you tomorrow with all this information if you'd like. Definitely reach out to me. I can help you out. That's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Okay, are you all set?
All set, thank you.
Well,
See you in 2 weeks.
Okay, well, we have to ask if there's anyone else in the audience who'd like to be heard, but you can go back to your seats if you want. Okay. So is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to be heard on this matter? Once again, anybody on Zoom wish to be heard on this matter? None. Anybody want to, or would someone like to make a?
Make a motion to continue it to the meeting on December 3rd at 6 PM.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, see you in a couple of weeks.
Ready?
Item.
All right. Business, and
Oh, no, we don't have to close the public hearing.
We just continued it.
Yeah, we can do.
Yeah, you're good. You don't have to close it.
new business, A&R 2024-09, request to combine 2 parcels, 95-34-0 and 95-35-0 into one larger parcel at 96 Summers Road, applicant Thomas K, 265 Millbrook Drive, East Long Meadow, Mass. 01028.
Hi.
How you doing? I'm not Thomas K. I'm here on behalf of Thomas K. My name is Jason Titso.
Say hi to Sarah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How you doing, Wes?
So, Mr. Chair, I can actually bring up the plans on the Zoom. I just have to be promoted as a panelist. So, Jamie, I don't know if you want to promote me to panelist so I can screen share. Thank you. Awesome. So, see the screen. Let me just share it. All right, should be able to see it.
So let's just start with the A&R.
So you want to explain the A&R or should I do it?
Sure. If you don't mind, I don't mind. doing it. So basically, the piece of property used to be Ford's Garden Mart. And it was split into 2 parcels, 34 and 35. 34 was the residential, 35 was the agricultural. So due to tax reasons, 61A was on 35, residential can't be under 61A, so that was a different parcel. We're not looking to do 61A at this point, so we're just gonna combine everything at one and make it one solid parcel, and that's kind of the plan.
So, Mr. Chair, you actually, it's hard to see on the screen, but this right here where the cursor is going is the existing smaller parcel.
Mhm.
I believe, Jason, you said this is 896, right? This little.
Yeah. That is 896. I don't know if there is actually an address for the rest because it was just the residential address. And that was basically where the house was. I'm sure you guys have seen it now. Looks totally different than it used to look.
Basically, they're dissolving the lot lines of this smaller property, making it one larger lot. So it's easier to build stuff on there if they were to do something moving forward.
Questions? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to endorse the plan?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No one's opposed, so that passes. Next item.
SPRW 2024-01, request for site plan review waiver of 176 square foot greenhouse at 896 Summers Road. To be placed on a site with no current principal resident building. Applicant Thomas K, 265 Millbrook Drive, East Long Meadow, Mass.
All right.
Tell us your plans.
Yeah, so again, I'm not Thomas Gay, but I'm here representing. And basically what we're looking to do is, as you guys can see, we have taken the old Forbes Garden Mart property, cleaned it, tore down all the old buildings that were really just a safety hazard and old house. And our plan is to eventually build something different there. Right now, we're just looking to get a small little shed on there that we can kind of work out of and use as a place to put our stuff for now. 176 square foot, yes, we don't have a building, and maybe in hindsight, we should have left the house and put the shed up before we put the house down. We probably wouldn't be here, but sometimes we don't think everything through. But yeah, we're just looking to do a temporary structure there. If we don't know that will be the permanent location of it, we may move it at some point in time as the site develops. We're still working through that site plan and what we're planning on doing there. So it's not that we're not trying to disclose stuff. We just don't have 100% of our, took really for us to tear everything down to figure out, well, what kind of space we have, right? And now that we know that, we're kind of getting into what we want to do. So this is really just kind of putting something there. We want to do a greenhouse because we are a farm. We want to, continue to do farming there. And, kind of, it's one of those things where, in this greenhouse lies the future of our farm. And that's kind of what we look to do some events on the property. We'll start growing some stuff as it gets closer to the springtime. And then we'll transplant that stuff into the soil once it makes sense. And, being as dry as it's been this fall, hasn't made sense to do anything there. So really it's just trying to get ahead of the spring and what we plan on doing there, and giving us a place to work out of. So we're not just working out of our trucks.
Questions? No. Do I have a motion to approve the waiver?
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing none. Item passes.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
After the meeting, I'll have you sign this and then have all sign these A&R plans as well. So just don't run away yet.
Okay. I need to wait for any last stuff.
You're all set.
All right, perfect. Thank you, everybody.
Reach out to you tomorrow about what to do next once I process.
Awesome. All right, thank you. And I hope everyone's excited about out there. I'm sure it's been kind of the talk of the town, and hopefully we can live up to everybody's expectation, what it will be. Have a good night.
Take care.
Take care.
Discussion on assisted living use in industrial garden park district.
So, Mr. Chair, we actually have some gentlemen in the audience that wanted to discuss a potential zoning amendment with you. And on it, Bill LaPlante's here to speak on behalf of that. So I guess, Bill, if you want to take it away when you sign in, go right ahead.
For full disclosure, probably what seems like a month or 6 weeks ago, Rob asked me to join a call about this concept. So I listened for about an hour and it was interesting. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, William LaPlante. Been a business owner in town for about 35 years. Owned property in town and ran the business in town. Back in 2023, I purchased 199 Denslow Road. That parcel abuts Long Meadow. It's the last parcel. It's about a 2-acre parcel. It's the last parcel in East Long Meadow, abutting Long Meadow. On the Long Meadow side is a residential zone. That's where the fields are, the new fields that they put in there. And there are some power lines that go along the right-hand side of the parcel. And so about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I started working with Paul Tarnowski, and he was looking to do assisted living and memory care. And when I purchased the parcel, I thought that would be, a really good use in that location When you go to the industrial garden park, use table, zoning table, that's not an allowed use, in the industrial garden park. It's interesting because just down, on Benton Drive, there are some similar facilities, but that's in the residential zone. Although it's on the street and looks like it's part of the IGP zone, it actually transitions over into the residential zone. So then I was looking at what is allowed, and, you know, you have hospitals, you have medical facilities and dental facilities. We've done a number of projects in and around that area. So that's when I approached Rob and asked him his thoughts. And, you know, I've talked to some other people in town, just trying to get their feedback to see if this would be an appropriate ask to change the zoning table in IGP for assisted living to a special permit. So it would still give the planning board the authority to look at a project and see if it is appropriate for the location. And I think most of IGP in Denslow and Benton, certainly, in my opinion, would be appropriate use as an assisted living facility. But if there were another location that was not thought of as to be the best use with what's around it, then it certainly would give the board the ability to say that it's not appropriate. So I'm just coming here as an informal discussion to get your thoughts and to see, you know, what the board feels about it. I think a facility like this would be, you know, would be a benefit to the town to allow people to age in place in their own community. And you know, we have just some preliminary ideas, and I understand that, you know, this is not project specific. This is more global, and we have to look at how it impacts other parcels in town. But I just wanted to have that informal discussion.
So I just want to stress what he just said. So even though he owns a specific parcel, should there be a zone change allowing assisted living, it's for the entire district, industrial garden park. My comments, I think originally, if I can remember back 6 weeks or longer, is I didn't really see an issue with it. If you look at the industrial garden park and the types of businesses that we allow in there now, it's really a very, I don't want to say hodgepodge, but it's very eclectic group, different types of.
Good word for it.
You've got businesses, you've got self-storage units, you have a very large daycare, you have manufacturing. I mean, you've got post office, you know, a school bus facility. And, you know, I just didn't. So there were some uses that were compatible, I thought. You mentioned medical facilities. Obviously, there's doctor's offices, physician practices, dental, and we just also we just authorized Center for Human Development, put in a psychiatric facility for 10-year lease anyway. So I didn't have a specific issue with it. So, and the idea of also having it come in through special permit allows this group some greater control. So it wouldn't be allowed as a matter of right. So, but those were my thoughts.
I mean, we're dealing with an aging population here in town, and everybody knows it, you know, and I'm in favor of it because you're going to need facilities like this. You know, I've been going through it on a personal level, and it's tough to navigate at times. And, you know, it's cumbersome because spacing right now is limited.
And the neat thing about this concept, and again, I know it's not project specific, and we would come forward with a project and with the details of the project. But the intent is to make it a homey facility, something that's not institutional looking, something that feels and looks like home. And again, I understand that that is irrelevant when it comes to the board and how we're looking at ending.
For the time being.
Yeah,
So why don't we just not?
Yeah.
Discuss that.
so
Rob, you do development. What do you think? I think it's appropriate.
I do, I'm just thinking of the other areas aside from Denslow and Ben that would affect, because I think it's fine down, I mean, there's one on the other end. You get closer up to the towing place, there's another collected one down there, right?
I know.
There's only one down there.
Yeah.
I think it's a fine spot for it. I know of the property. I'm just wondering outside of that, where else that zoning drips into. That'll
That's
be my-
really, that's the focus for IPG is that area right there.
It's just
Yeah.
there. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see any issues with it. But yeah, just go down the other end of,
Well, to be honest, I don't fully know the makeup of the district itself.
Yeah, it's pretty much,
It seems like it's larger businesses and then also some small ones kind of mixed in with it.
yeah. And there has been a larger concentration of medical practices,
Yeah.
dental practices, orthopedics. You know, you've got Attain Physical Therapy. I mean, so there are, I'm going to call it medical uses as
Yeah.
part of this. And this, I would take to be a medical use as well.
Yeah.
Cassandra?
I think it would work. I mean, we just approved the other, what I would deem a similar business over
Mhm.
there, so I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
Cause that was like overnight stays and stuff.
They will be overnight.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
now was that approved as a hospital use? You know, they didn't get
I think so.
a change for that.
No, they did
I
not.
think it
No,
was
they
like
did not.
doctors.
I can't remember.
Or yeah, medical.
But yeah, it wasn't overnight. I don't think it was an overnight.
No,
No, there were
Were they?
overnights.
Were they?
It's not like long term, like shorter term.
Maybe shorter
Shorter
term, something.
term.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So it must be under medical facility.
Yeah.
rehabilitation.
Well, you have our thoughts.
I appreciate your time and hopefully we'll come back with something for you to take a look at.
Sounds good.
Thanks again.
Okay, Rob with Sheila, zoning discussion.
I'll be quick. So I want to include this in here because I have made significant progress on doing the ADU bylaw. It's a first rough draft. I'll be honest, we're still waiting to hear back from some departments to give input. We did have the town council take a look at it for their initial reading and they sent it back to you guys for a public hearing that's going to be scheduled on December 3rd. And as you can see, we're trying to fight a timeline because the deadline to implement this is February 2nd before the state law kicks in and allows for these things allowed by right. So we're still waiting to hear back from DPW, Board of Health, and then we still have to have town council look at it. All of that will be done before the December 3rd hearing dates. So what you have in your packet now is just my latest rough draft, as well as the legal notice, which has been included in there as well for your own records. Overall, the ADU bylaw is just one section, but then also we had to make changes to 3 other sections of the zoning regs as well. And the reason for that is so we can eliminate any sort of confusion, any sort of language that might be contradictory, and then to include some definitions of words such as short-term rental, which the town was hoping to prohibit from these ADUs into becoming. In order to do so, we have to include the definition of the definition of short-term rental because we have to reference it. So you'll see as you look through this in your free time or whenever you want to, you'll see why those sections were kind of included in this document. So, I wasn't really hoping to have a full discussion on it. It was more just of an update. I was hoping the discussion could be saved for when we come back on December 3rd and you have a more up-to-date draft in your possession. So that's pretty much all I had, Mr. Chair. I don't know if you wanted to give me any comments or feedback.
So I've given Rob my feedback. Cassie and I have this discussion all the time
Mhm.
about
John.
the one where you think that as a member of a local planning board that zoning is local. But then you find out there are many things that are controlled on a state or federal level. As an example, our solar bylaw, educational uses that have to be allowed without coming to the planning board. Our cell tower issue a few years back, and here's another one. The state is overriding local zoning by saying this has to be done. It has to be completed, even though some may believe that it will dramatically impact the density of certain zones, or really of almost potentially of every zone, every residential zone in town, potentially.
Single family residential.
Well, single family,
Yeah,
yeah. I'll just use an example. I live on a small street, 12 houses. I counted at least 3 or 4 that could reasonably put an accessory in, like a standalone accessory dwelling unit on it.
Mhm.
And so that increases the density by 25%. That means more cars, more traffic, more water, more sewer, more kids.
Yeah.
Buses, more teachers.
More buses, yeah.
The whole gamut.
More, I mean.
And so I was telling Rob that just out of obstinance, I may just vote no, but then he assured me, and when I look through this, I'm going to look for those assurances, Rob, that they have drafted it to the point that they would put all appropriate restrictions on it that would potentially reduce the number of instances where people would be willing to put it on their property. And I guess we'll walk through that on December 3rd. Was that a fair assessment of what?
Yeah, I can go through it really quick right now.
Okay.
Just not get too specific.
Yeah.
I mean, so typically when you look at the different types that are allowed, you have the detached, which is just a separate building. Then you have like attached, which is like an addition to your house, but then that turns into a separate dwelling unit. So technically you can either do like a 2-family where there's kind of both connected, but obviously the ADU has to be smaller than the main house. Then you have like a garage or a shed that's prefabbed, or maybe a rehabilitated existing structure or something that still has to be smaller. Typically, if it's detached, you need to have separate water and sewer hookups that run to the street, which I'm pretty sure is the rules and regulations of DPW. You have to have a separate electrical meter box, run your own wires, run your own internet if you're going to put internet in there. Has to be insulated, has to be habitable all year round, has to have kitchen facilities, has to have all this stuff. The price just goes up on these things. So you're looking at something that's probably going to cost you around 20 grand, maybe more, just to build one. Even if you're rehabbing an existing building, it's still in the tens of thousands just to do that work alone. So, other towns that have this bylaw in place, such as like East Hampton or a Holyoke or Chicopee, typically you don't see too many of them being built. You might see like 1 or 2 per year go before they're board to be permitted. In a place such as like Amherst, for example, you see more of them because that's a college town where there's more money, more development pressure, et cetera. We don't envision that becoming an issue here in East Long Meadow because of the restrictions we put on it, which includes getting site plan review approval from the planning board, no matter what, and limiting these things to no more than 900 square feet or 1/2 the size of the main house, whichever is smaller.
Whichever is smaller.
Yep. So if it's a 1,000 square foot house, 500 is the most you can do. So it's proportionally set up on purpose. So these things will, no matter what, always be smaller than the main house. And state law actually made that definition and that metric, which is pretty surprising. So
It's 2,000 square feet, the maximum is 900.
exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So anything larger than 900 is not possible for these. Also, the other biggest thing to consider too is that owner occupancy can no longer be required for either building on site, which is sort of problematic for us, but that's just what the state mandates as fact. So every other community that does have an accessory dwelling bylaw, they actually require owner occupancy. And that goes for most, if not all, of the surrounding communities, including Amherst, Northampton, Greenfield, all those communities that have it. Now, none of them can enforce owner occupancy. They all have to allow for both buildings to either have an owner or not to have an owner and live in it, which is going to set a pretty strong precedent moving forward, especially for rental properties. So that's why, to supplement that, we're going to create a registration process with my department or building. It might be a shared thing through OpenGov. These ADU owners will register just note whether or not they're gonna rent it, if they're gonna live in it themselves, just so we can keep track of them. So we know how many of these things exist in town, what they're being used for, et cetera. So, we're trying to put as much as we can to kind of curtail the explosion of these things to be built, but in my honest opinion, you're mostly going to see the attached ADUs come into existence because they're easier to do. A lot of people already have additions. They could just put separate entrances and then boom, little kitchen, bathroom, get up to code. That's an ADU. So I think the reality is you're not going to see as many of the detached. But again, since you took out the owner occupancy thing, you may not know. So, we're trying the best we can to make this bylaw so we can enforce to the full extent of the law, while also protecting ourselves when we enforce it, so we're not overstepping. So that's pretty much all I have, Mr. Chair.
So is there any discussion in your peers about towns just saying no? Like the MBTA,
No, because if we say no to it, then state law is just going to govern everything. And if we deny a building permit for an ADU, they could technically appeal that and take it to court. And that's probably when we lose in court. I also talked to some attorneys at a conference I went to last week about the owner occupancy thing. I asked them if people would ever challenge it, like a municipality. They said, yeah, but it's not going to get very far in the courts. So it seems like the owner occupancy is going to be a thing of the past for these ADUs, fortunately. So, anything can happen, but that's just what 3 lawyers told me at a conference last week. So, yeah,
you had 3 lawyers agree on the same thing.
it was pretty crazy. Go ahead. Yeah, and they were doing that for free too. Yeah, so
Any other questions on that?
No,
So please, I'm going to ask you at least within the next week or so, if you could spend some time going through it and just send your comments to Rob.
Yeah.
So, all righty.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. More on the director's report?
Yeah, let me just pull that up real quick. So I included our upcoming meeting dates, including the 4 of 2025. So January 7th, 21st, and then the 2 in February. I also gave you guys a copy of the schedule for 2025. It seems like the only conflict we have this year is just the town elections on June 3rd. Obviously, the schedule can be updated if we need it to be, but it seems unlike last year, we have a lot less, missed meetings because of events like that.
Well, there were 4 elections this year that threw a monkey wrench into everybody. So
What's the December 17th looking like?
Of this month? Oh, sorry, this year.
Of December, yeah. Of December.
This
year.
There we go.
This year.
This December.
I had a long day.
okay.
Enough out of you.
So nothing in the radar yet, but I could see that potentially being a date if the ADU public hearings continue for some reason. That's pretty much it. We don't have anything in the works yet for that meeting. I think the deadline for that one, I just need to look at a calendar real quick. I don't know if it's passed already. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. The deadline's actually this Thursday, Russell. So if we don't get any planning board permits that need a public hearing by Thursday at 3, then we technically don't have a need for it.
Okay, good.
But if the hearing gets continued on the 3rd, then that's the only thing. Yeah.
All right.
And then,
I'll talk now.
keep going through this. So as I mentioned, December 3rd is the public hearing on ADUs. Town management wanted me to bring up some trainings that were coming up. They wanted to encourage us as a board to consider going to them. I mean, the first 2 here are actually right before 2 meeting dates that we have coming up at 5:30. So it could be one of those things where we just come meet early and then watch on the screen and then have our meeting afterwards. And then the other 3 are kind of on non-meeting dates, but are covering topics that are pretty important. So just wanted to bring that up to you and see if anybody had any interest in attending them. They're virtual webinars. They're actually pretty good trainings, and the town would cover the cost for you to attend. And if we all share the same screen, that's only 1 registration fee. So you'd be saving me some money. So I just want to throw that out there as a something to consider. And then in terms of the zoning amendments for town council, we have 2 commercial kennelling, which is still in the public hearing process of town council. We don't know when the second reading date is going to be yet. And we have our solar hearing which was continued to December 10th, 2024 before town council. Those are gaining pretty good traction at the moment. And the last bit of news I had is about some recent grant updates that we've had. Rebecca Lisi, Deputy Town Manager, has done pretty good in getting all this money for us. So the first one's a MassWorks Infrastructure Program grant, in which we received $1.9 million to do upgrades to the Chestnut Street water pumping station, which is way overdue. We received a Green Communities grant in the amount of $160,000 for weatherization improvements at the DPW service building, which currently has no installation in their cafeteria area, I believe. And then a second grant to add to that project was from a program called the Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Program. They gave us $21,000 to contribute to that same project. So that's all I had. Keep getting money. We keep making the town a better place. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Rob, do you want to give an update on Center District Study Committee?
Sure. So we
No, I was
had,
going to have Rob.
oh, that Rob, yeah, sorry.
Oh, our reps. Put us next to each other again.
Too many Robs.
Yeah, so we had the community come in again here in the senior center, had an open forum, which was productive, I'll say. Had people draw out ideas of what they would envision the zone looking like, and they're gonna overlay that, try to come up with the most common lines for that was people that agreed to. Some colorful comments. I think we've got people somewhat on track now. I think everyone understands what we're attempting to do here. But right now it's with the Pioneer Valley Committee. I forget what they're.
So the one
Those
thing,
guys are
the one thing that's,
They're coming up with their lines.
the one thing that surprised me was the extension into 2025 to have the work completed. Can you explain that? to the
Yeah.
Public?
So from my understanding, it started late. So it's now going to go late, right? We're still going to get the full year's worth of commitment out of it, but we got going late. I forget exactly what the reason was at the beginning. But we started in March allegedly, and then now it's going to end sometime in March. So it's just getting the full year out of it.
And Mr. Fonseca, do you want to, as our representative and as chair of the CPC, anything you want to add?
We approved 4 applications at our meeting last week. 2 of them, and actually one is to resurface and repair the bell that sits outside of Town Hall right now. That used to be in the bell tower, that they can't put it back in the bell tower anymore because it's a little too heavy. We approved engineering study for the barn out at the Brown property. Start holding events out there. And 2 small rec grants. One was there's a drainage issue at center field, authorized an engineering study to see what that improvements can be, and the rough estimate on the cost is well over $300,000. So we've got to look into that. And Pine Knoll, the pool needs to be painted, so we approved that. I mean, we got to keep investing in town is what we're trying to do, because, you know, we've got quite a bit of money. We did receive the state's portion to the matching grant was down to 14%, which equaled out to be $66,000 coming from the state. They used to match 100% when this thing was all born, but we know how those things work. So that's it for community preservation.
All right. There's no other business. I'm going to adjourn the Tuesday, November 19th, 2024 meeting of the planning board. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.